Your research just show a lot of different aspects of the cultural obsession around early achievement and the push, but there are going to be parents who say, well, what's wrong with me wanting my kids to succeed? Where do they find the balance then?
That is one of the toughest questions facing parents today. At the one end, you have the Tiger Mom model, which is let's push them. They can stand up to it, and it'll produce good results, and give them a good start. And I'd say to those parents, if it works, bravo. I have nothing but applause for that strategy if it works. If the kid is suffering, if the kid is too exhausted and is starting to exhibit signs of clinical depression and anxiety and what is called suicide ideation, that is, they've thought about it, and they've actually thought about it specifically, then you have to say, is that level of pushing worth it? Some kids, this is true of athletes, it's true of students, some kids respond to being pushed harder. Others rebel at being pushed harder, and they find a way to sabotage those kinds of efforts. The thing I like about late blooming is that when you find that intersection of your deepest gifts and your deepest passions, you won't feel pushed anymore. You'll feel pulled. You'll feel like you're being pulled towards some destiny that has your name on it. If you're a religious person, it's a divine destiny. Oprah Winfrey calls it a supreme destiny, but a magical destiny if you don't care to go to the religious angle. This is what you were meant to do. This has you written all over it. And then hard work becomes tolerable because you're not being pushed by other people's expectations. You can't wait to get up. You can't wait. Doesn't mean every day is going to be easy, by the way. Doesn't mean that you're not going to have your battles with self-doubt or the people are going to reject you along the way and there are going to be setbacks. But it's just a completely different set of motivations when you feel like you're being pulled. So to those parents whose kids are not responding to these outside pressures, it's not as if you suddenly go all laissez-faire on them and just, all hippie on them and let them bloom like wild plants. I think you have to, as parents, you have to be there for them. You have to love them. You have to listen closely to them. You have to be there for their triumphs and setbacks. You have to applaud. You have to weep with them, all of those things. And that's how you really get to know how your kid is wired. And when you know your kid is wired, you'll have much better intuition about what they respond to. And then it's a matter of, well, where is this child likeliest to intersect with their talents and passions? And that's what you try to find. And if it didn't happen early, it can happen at any time. That's the wonderful thing about blooming. And I believe that as we look forward into the future and technology becomes more disruptive and it wipes out industries and wipes out careers at a faster rate, then the habit of knowing how to bloom, of knowing how to get on a journey of discovery, finding that perfect intersection of talents and passions becomes vital for all of us. Because a lot of us, whether we want to or not, are going to be in a position where we're going to have to reinvent ourselves. And if we merely try to go back and do what we did, this is, by the way, this is a discovery of a woman named Carol Fishman Cohen. She was an early achiever who was an honor student, valedictorian as an undergrad, went to Harvard Business School, went to work for an investment bank and made partner. That is early achiever written all over it, right? And then at age 30, she stopped out, had 4 children, took 12 years to raise them and get them going, and then thought, well, time to get back into investment banking. And she was greeted with a kind of, who are you? And the assumption that her skills were outdated. And the assumption was whatever she said, mentally she was still on the mommy track or whatever it was. All the prejudices that women who are returning to the workforce feel. So she started an organization called iRelaunch and had to do with return to work parents, mainly women, mainly mothers, and it was, she was motivated that if she felt, what she was surprised to feel was, in addition to how difficult it was, is how easily her confidence, which was formerly very abundant, how it shattered. And so she started a support group called iRelaunch. It's a business, and you join this iRelaunch, and you get coaching and peer-to-peer counseling and mentorship and all of this, returning to the workforce. And one of our big conclusions is don't go back and try to do what you did, because you yourself have changed. You've gone from maybe a technical expert to this more generalist as you age. That's just sort of a natural evolution. So if you left at 30 and come back at 42, you're a different person. You have executive skills and negotiation skills that you learned being a parent. You know, figure out a way to now transfer that. You might have to do it first by serving on the board of a nonprofit just to get back in the groove, and then you can prove it. A lot of women think that they can go straight from being a mother with all those executive skills that being a mother entails and convince employers. And I wish employers were more enlightened about that, but the problem is these women are competing against other women who don't have holes in their resume. So what Carol has done is figure out, well, how to get back. Maybe it's a 1 or 2 or 3 step process. How to get back your confidence. How to do even the little stuff that trips people up. You've been out for 12 years, well, there's this thing called workflow apps. A lot of companies use those. You're going to have to create your own PowerPoints, even if you're executive today, or whatever you use for slide presentations. The world has kind of changed that way. And it's really pretty easy to master, but it'll look like an insurmountable barrier when you come back in after 12 years or 10 years or whatever it is. I think that's a wonderful thing, and that piece of advice, you are no longer what you were, but in many ways you're better, so let's go with that flow.